What if the first touch that saves you is the hand you're meant to love? Soul breathed rain and neon. Traffic hissed. Lights shook in puddles like tiny stars. Eugene Jackson walked slowly, one hand on her belly, the other gripping a blue umbrella that bent in the wind. Inside her grocery bag sat a small loaf of bread, 2 noodles, and a tiny carton of milk, everything her last coins could buy. She was 8 months pregnant. She was tired, hungry, and still unbroken. A low growl cut through the street. A brindled dog yanked free from a metal pole and lunged. A little girl in a yellow raincoat froze, tiny shoes sliding on wet tiles. People gasped. Phones rose. Feet did not move. Eugene did. She stepped in front of the girl and lifted the umbrella like a shield. Steel ribs shook under the dog's weight. Rain hammered the fabric. "Stay behind me, sweetheart," she said, calm but firm. "Hold my coat. Don't let go." The dog snapped at the nylon. Eugene angled the umbrella, pushing its snout aside. Pain burned across her back, her belly tightened like a fist. She planted her feet anyway. "We're okay," she whispered, to the girl, to the baby, to herself. "We are okay." "Someone help," a voice cried, finally alive. Sirens wailed in the distance. Blue and red smeared across the glass walls like paint. A black SUV fishtailed to the curb and stopped hard. A tall man ran into the rain, his suit soaked in seconds. "Bora." His voice broke on her name. The child turned with a sob. "Appa." Eugene held the umbrella steady until 2 responders moved in with poles, pushing the dog back. Space opened. Air returned. Her arms trembled from the fight. Her grocery bag tore, the bread slipped into a puddle and bobbed away like a small boat leaving home. The man scooped the child into his arms, then looked up, finally seeing the woman who had stood in the storm. Their eyes met. His were sharp, frightened, and grateful. Hers were tired and steady. For one breath, the rain went quiet. There were no titles here. No money. Only a father, a stranger, and a choice already made. He stepped toward her. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she said, though her knees shook. "She's safe. That's what matters. Please sit." He reached for her elbow, gentle and careful. His hand was warm. It surprised her how much she wanted that warmth to stay. A medic draped a blanket over her shoulders. Another contraction hit, deep and mean. The street tilted. Eugene caught the curb but swayed. The man caught her first, steady like a promise. "Thank you," he said, voice low. "I'm Junseo Han." She tried to smile. "I'm Eugene Jackson." The name came out on a thin breath. Bora peeked over her father's shoulder. "Miss, are you an angel?" Eugene laughed softly, then winced. "I'm just hungry," she said. "And stubborn." The responders waved the all clear. The dog was secured. The crowd began to breathe again. Rain kept falling, softer now, like the city was calming too. Junseo looked from Eugene's soaked coat to her swollen belly to the lonely bread drifting away. "Let me take you somewhere dry," he said. "Please." Hospitals meant forms. Forms meant questions. Questions meant bills. Fear pressed like a thumb to her throat. Eugene shook her head, tried to stand, and failed. Darkness brushed the edges of her sight. "Careful," Junseo whispered, tightening his hold. It sounded like a prayer. The last thing she felt was his palm steady at her spine, as if he already understood he would not let her fall again. By morning, Sol would argue about a nameless heroine with a blue umbrella. By morning, Eugene Jackson would wake on a shelter cot, chasing warmth. And by morning, Junseo Han would begin a search that felt too much like fate. Morning came grey and thin. The storm had rinsed Sol, but the cold stayed. Eugene Jackson opened her eyes to a low ceiling and a humming radiator. A thin blanket covered her shoulders. Her grocery bag lay torn beside the cot, bread gone, noodles damp. Bruises bloomed along her arms like dark clouds. She tried to sit. Pain tugged her ribs. Her baby kicked, firm and clear, as if saying, "Keep going, Mom." Eugene pressed a palm to her belly and breathed. "I hear you," she whispered. "We're not done." A volunteer slid near with a shy smile and a paper cup of warm porridge. "You're safe here," the woman said. "Eat while it's hot." "Thank you." Eugene took a slow spoonful. It tasted like comfort, simple and kind. She closed her eyes and saw rain, teeth, a yellow raincoat, then a man's face, sharp and worried, his hand steady at her back. She shook the memory away. No time for fantasy, she told herself. We survive. That's all. Across town, Junseo hadn't slept. He sat on the edge of Bora's bed, listening to the soft puff of her breath. The night replayed in his head on a loop, a blue umbrella, a stranger's courage, a child he could have lost. Bora blinked awake and touched his sleeve. Appa. Yes, Bear. Where is the lady who saved me? We're going to find her, he said, simple and true. I promise. By 8, his office buzzed like a live wire. Security feeds flickered across a wall of screens, subways, corners, crosswalks. Assistants fielded calls from shelters and clinics. His head of security stood ready with a tablet. We flagged 30 possible matches in the last 2 hours. Start with the shelters near Myeongdong and Namdaemun, Junseo said. She'll avoid hospitals. How do you know? Because she left before help could keep her, he replied, remembering the way she had pulled away from the stretcher. She doesn't want questions. Back at the shelter, a small TV murmured, unknown hero saves child in rain. No ID. No name. Heads turned toward Eugene with curious kindness. Attention felt like a net. She couldn't breathe inside it. Thank you for the porridge, she told the volunteer, folding the blanket as neatly as a goodbye. I need to go. Are you sure? The news, everyone wants to help you. That's the trouble, Eugene said gently. Help comes with strings. She stepped into the morning mist. The city smelled like wet stone and coffee. She moved the way she had learned to move, quiet, steady, invisible. Down an alley lined with steaming pots. Past a bakery that left yesterday's bread on a back step. Over a bridge where cats watched like guards. Under a church eave, she paused to rest and sip the last of her milk. The baby rolled and settled. 1 hour more, she promised. Then we hide again. 2 blocks away, a black sedan idled. A man in a cap spoke into her MIC possible sighting near the church on Hungung Blue Coat. Late term. The sedan pulled away, too slow for the life in Eugene's legs. Junseo visited the shelter minutes after she left. The volunteer's eyes widened when she recognized him. You're Bora's father, she said, handing him a folded, damp receipt from a grocery shop. She dropped this. She was calm, like she had a map in her head. He studied the crumpled paper, milk, bread, noodles, a timestamp blurred by rain. His jaw set. Thank you. He slipped the receipt into his pocket like a clue from fate. We'll find her. Afternoon softened the city to silver. Eugene shared the last corner of bread with a cat and stood. Her hood went up. Her steps turned downriver. Wind lifted the edge of her umbrella. She didn't look back. Evening settled like smoke over Seoul. The streets glowed with lanterns and headlights, rain still dripping from signs. Somewhere in the hum of the crowd, Eugene Jackson walked quietly, her hood pulled low. Every step hurt, but stopping hurt more. Her worn shoes slapped against the wet ground as she passed the noodle stalls near Jongno. The smell of broth made her stomach twist. She hadn't eaten since morning. She bought a small bun with the few coins left in her pocket and tore it into halves. One for her, one for the stray cat that followed her every night like a tiny bodyguard. You again, she murmured, kneeling to feed it. You never give up, do you? The cat purred and rubbed against her leg. For a fleeting second, Eugene smiled. The city was loud, cruel, and unkind, but sometimes, even here, small things cared. Across the Han River, Junseo stood in his glass office, staring out at the skyline. Seoul looked perfect from above, clean, golden, alive, but he knew better. Somewhere beneath those lights, a woman who had risked her life for his daughter was disappearing. Sir, his assistant said, stepping in. No trace from hospitals or shelters. But a witness in Jongno mentioned a black woman helping stray cats under the temple lanterns. Junseo turned sharply. Send me the location. Now. He grabbed his coat, ignoring the rain that waited outside. His driver opened the door, but Junseo stopped him. I'll go alone. The car cut through the city like a shadow. He parked by the temple steps, heart pounding harder than reason. And then he saw her, under the red glow of hanging lanterns, feeding a cat with hands he remembered holding. For a moment, he just watched. Her hair was wet, her coat frayed, but she looked peaceful. Real. Human. A kind of strength that didn't shout, it simply stayed. He took a step forward. Eugene heard the footsteps and froze. Her body tensed. "If you're from the shelter," she said without turning, "I'm not going back." "I'm not from the shelter," a deep voice answered. She turned, slow, careful. The air caught between them. It was him. The man from the rain. The one whose eyes had found hers through chaos. Junseo Han, clean suit, wet hair, and that same gaze filled with gratitude and guilt. Her lips parted, surprise caught between fear and confusion. "You." He took another step. "You left before I could thank you. There's no need." Her voice trembled. "Your daughter is safe. That's enough." "It's not enough," Junseo said, quietly but firmly. "You nearly died for her. For me." Eugene shook her head. "You don't owe me anything, Mr. Han." "I know I don't," he said, softer now, "but I want to." A beat of silence passed. Rain began again, soft, rhythmic, like the city was listening. Eugene turned away, eyes glistening. People don't help others just because they want to. Not here. Junseo's voice lowered. "Maybe you've met the wrong kind of people." She looked back. His face was calm, but his eyes carried a sadness she recognized, a loneliness that mirrored her own. He extended a hand, hesitant. "Please, let me help." Eugene stared at his hand, trembling slightly under the drizzle. For a moment, she almost reached for it. Then fear won. "I can't," she whispered. "Every time someone helps, I lose something." Junseo took a breath, stepping back instead of forward. "Then I'll wait. Just know, I'm not giving up." Their eyes met again, brief, charged, unspoken. Then Eugene turned and walked into the night, her figure melting into the crowd. Junseo watched until she disappeared. His coat was soaked, but he didn't move. "She's hiding from the world," he murmured, "but the world owes her more than it can ever give." Night crept across Seoul again, heavy and restless. The rain had stopped, but the wind carried the city's leftover chill. Eugene Jackson walked through the subway tunnel, her steps slow, her breath uneven. Her belly felt heavier tonight. The baby shifted, restless, like he could feel her fear. Her grocery bag was nearly empty now. She had eaten only half a bread roll and saved the rest for morning. But food was not what her body craved. It was peace. It was warmth. It was a place where no one stared at her like she didn't belong. As she reached the last staircase, her vision blurred. She gripped the rail. Pain twisted low in her stomach, sharp, mean, and sudden. "No, not now," she gasped. Her body tightened again, harder this time. Sweat broke through her skin. People passed without noticing. One man glanced and looked away. A woman hurried her child past, whispering something about foreigners. The crowd moved like a river, fast, indifferent. Eugene tried to steady her breathing. "You're okay," she told her baby. "Just stay with me." "Not yet." But the next contraction crushed her words. Her knees buckled. The bread bag dropped. The small loaf hit the floor and rolled away. She clutched her belly, biting back a cry. That's when fate arrived again, behind the wheel of a car cutting through traffic near the station. Junseo Han had just left a late meeting when the police alert flashed across his dashboard. Pregnant woman in distress, near Seoul Station underpass. Something in him froze. His chest tightened. "Turn the car around," he ordered his driver. "Sir, now." By the time Junseo reached the platform, a small crowd had gathered. A few people stood whispering. Then he saw her, on the cold floor, half conscious, drenched in sweat, one hand pressed against her stomach. "Eugene." His voice broke through the noise. He pushed through the onlookers and dropped to his knees beside her. Her eyes fluttered open. "You again," she whispered weakly, half smiling through pain. "You're persistent." "I told you," he said, holding her trembling hands, "I'm not giving up." She tried to laugh, but another wave of pain cut through her. "It's coming." "I can't, it's too soon." Junseo looked around wildly. "Call an ambulance." "They're on the way," someone said, but he barely heard. He took off his jacket, slipped it under her head. "Just breathe," he said gently. "In and out. I'm here." Her eyes filled with tears. "You shouldn't be," she whispered. "You're not supposed to see me like this." "I was supposed to find you," he said, voice low, shaking. "Even if the whole world tried to hide you." A contraction hit, fierce, unstoppable. Eugene screamed. Junseo gripped her hand tighter. "You're strong. You can do this." Minutes blurred into eternity. The sirens grew louder, closer. Eugene's breathing turned shallow. She gasped, tears spilling freely. "Don't let them take my baby," she cried. "They'll take him away if they know I have nothing. No ID, no papers, no one." Junseo's heart cracked open. "You have me," he said, his tone fierce. "Do you hear me? You have me now." The paramedics burst through, shouting orders. They lifted her onto a stretcher. Her eyes rolled back, her grip still locked around his fingers. "Sir, are you the father?" one medic asked. Junseo hesitated only a second. "Yes," he said firmly. "I am." They didn't question him further. In the ambulance, her head rested against his shoulder, her voice barely a whisper. Why are you doing this for me?" Junseo brushed a tear from her cheek. "Because I couldn't sleep knowing the woman who saved my daughter is out here alone." Her lips curved faintly. "You're too kind for this world." He smiled softly. "Or maybe just too late for yours." The city lights blurred past the ambulance windows like shooting stars. Somewhere between pain and silence, Eugene closed her eyes. The siren wailed like a lullaby. By the time they reached the hospital, the baby's cry filled the air. It was thin and powerful. A boy. Alive. Eugene's tears slipped down her cheeks as she drifted into sleep, Junseo still holding her hand. Morning sunlight spilled over Seoul, soft and pale after a sleepless night. Eugene Jackson woke slowly to the rhythmic beep of hospital machines. Her body ached, her lips were dry. For a few seconds, she didn't know where she was, until she heard a sound that made her chest tighten. A baby's cry. Her baby. Her head turned sharply. A nurse was standing by the bassinet, smiling gently. "Congratulations," she said. "You have a strong little boy." Eugene exhaled, relief washing through her. "Is he okay?" "He's perfect," the nurse said softly. "Healthy lungs, healthy heart." "You did well, Eugene looked at the tiny face, at the small fists punching the air as if already fighting the world. "Minute Ho," she whispered, naming him after the dream she once had for peace. Not the man who broke her, but the future she still believed in. Then, as the nurse walked away, another sound reached her, footsteps. Slow, certain, familiar. When Eugene looked up, she froze. Junseo had stood in the doorway, still in yesterday's suit, hair uncombed, eyes shadowed from exhaustion. But when he saw her awake, something unguarded crossed his face, relief mixed with a quiet kind of joy. "You're awake," he said softly, stepping closer. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured, her voice hoarse. "You've done enough already." He ignored that. "The doctor said you fainted during the birth. You lost a lot of strength. They didn't even want to admit you because you had no ID." Eugene's throat tightened. "Then how am I here?" "I told them you were my wife," he said quietly. Her eyes widened. "You what?" "I didn't have a choice," he said, a hint of a smile breaking through. "They were going to turn you away. You needed help. So, I lied." She blinked at him, speechless. "Why would you risk your name for a stranger?" "Because you're not a stranger," he said softly. "You're the reason my daughter still breathes." The room went quiet. Rain tapped lightly on the window, like a rhythm to their silence. Eugene turned her face away, blinking back tears. "You don't even know me, Junseo." "I'm not. I don't need to," he interrupted. "I just know that you deserve better than this. You and your son." The way he said your son, gentle, full of respect, shook her. She swallowed hard. "So what now? You expect me to accept charity?" He sighed. "No. I expect you to accept a job." She looked at him, confused. He continued, "Bora won't stop asking about you. She barely eats, barely sleeps. She wants the lady with the umbrella." His lips twitched in a faint smile. "I need someone I trust to care for her. Someone brave enough to face a storm." Eugene stared at him. You want me to work in your house? I want you to live there, he said. At least until you get back on your feet. That's crazy, she said, shaking her head. Your world and mine don't mix. Then maybe it's time they did, Junseo replied, his voice firm but kind. Let me help you, Eugene. Not because you need saving, but because you saved me, too. Her breath caught. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, slowly, she looked at her sleeping baby. He stretched a small hand toward her face. She smiled faintly, torn between pride and fear. I don't trust rich men, she finally said. Then don't trust me, he replied, stepping back. Trust what you did that night. Trust the part of you that didn't think twice. His words hung in the air, heavy with truth. Eugene's fingers brushed over Minute-Ho's soft cheek. For him, she whispered. Only for him. Junseo nodded. That's all I needed to hear. As he left the room, Eugene watched the door close behind him. Her mind was spinning. A mansion in Gangnam. A job she never asked for. A man she didn't understand, but couldn't stop thinking about. Her heart pounded once, twice, then steadied into something new, not fear, not safety, but the dangerous calm that comes before life changes forever. 3 days later, Seoul's skyline rose before Eugene Jackson like a promise she wasn't sure she could keep. The sleek black car stopped in front of the Han Mansion, a glass palace perched high above Gangnam. The gates opened slowly, revealing fountains, trimmed hedges, and a house big enough to hold every dream she had ever lost. Eugene's fingers tightened around her baby's blanket. Minute-Ho slept quietly in her arms, unaware of the world that was about to judge his mother. Beside her, Junseo Han watched her reaction. It's not as intimidating as it looks, he said, a faint smile playing at his lips. It looks like a castle, Eugene replied, her tone soft but unsure. And castles never belonged to people like me. He turned toward her, eyes steady. Then maybe it's time that changed. As they entered the mansion, the marble floors reflected the light like ice. Servants lined the hallway, bowing politely but whispering as soon as her back turned. A foreigner? A single mother? Their stares pricked like pins. At the far end of the corridor, a woman descended the grand staircase, elegant, sharp, and cold as winter glass. Madame Han, Junseo's mother. Her eyes flicked from Eugene's face to the baby in her arms, then back to her son. Is this the woman? She asked quietly, her voice sweet as poison. Yes, Junseo replied firmly. Eugene Jackson. She'll be staying here as Bora's nanny. The older woman's lips curved faintly, but her gaze was pure steel. Nanny? Or another secret, Junseo? Eugene lowered her head in respect. Good afternoon, Madame Han's gaze lingered. Where did you find her? Junseo's jaw tightened. She found us. The silence stretched. Finally, Madame Han turned and walked away, her heels tapping like judgment. Do as you please, my son. You always do. When she was gone, Eugene exhaled slowly. She hates me already. She doesn't hate you, Junseo said quietly. She hates what she can't control. Eugene looked at him, uncertain. And what about you? Do you control everything, too? He met her gaze for a long moment. I used to. His voice softened. But lately, I'm not so sure. That night, Eugene unpacked in the small room prepared for her, plain, spotless, and quietly suffocating. She placed Minute-Ho's crib near the window and looked out at the city lights. The rain had started again, painting the glass in silver streaks. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Come in, she said. Bora peeked around the door, holding a teddy bear. Can I stay here for a bit? Eugene smiled. Of course. The little girl climbed onto the bed. Appa says you're brave. Eugene chuckled softly. Appa says too much. Is that your baby? Bora asked, pointing at the crib. Yes. His name's Minute-Ho. He's small, the girl whispered, eyes wide with wonder. Someday he'll be big. Just like you. Bora smiled, and for the first time in a long while, Eugene felt warmth. Not from the heater or the lights, but from the innocent trust of a child who didn't care about status or skin. Downstairs, Junseo stood on the balcony, looking up at the window where the light still glowed. He could hear faint laughter drifting through the rain, his daughter's laugh. The sound had been gone from his house for years. His assistant appeared behind him. "Sir, the press caught wind of a mystery woman living here. They're asking questions." Jun Seo didn't turn. "Let them ask. And your mother?" "She's always asking," he murmured. "She'll never understand that some storms don't destroy, they bring things back to life." The assistant hesitated. "And this woman? Eugene. What is she to you?" Jun Seo's gaze lingered on the window one last time. "Right now," he said quietly, "she's the only thing keeping this house alive." Upstairs, Eugene tucked Bora into bed and whispered, "Dream of something kind." Then she sat by Minute Ho's crib, brushing his tiny hand with her finger. For the first time since arriving in Korea, she felt almost safe, and that scared her most of all. Because in her experience, peace never lasted. The morning sunlight poured through the tall glass windows of the Han mansion, warm but deceptive. For a week, the house had been strangely peaceful. Eugene Jackson had started to smile again, even if only in borrowed moments. Bora had followed her everywhere, small feet padding through marble halls, her laughter echoing through rooms that had forgotten joy. Minute Ho slept in a cradle by the window, and Eugene finally felt something she hadn't felt in years, belonging. Downstairs, the staff still whispered when she passed, but their tone had softened. Everyone saw the change in Jun Seo, how he laughed more, how his eyes no longer carried the weight of ghosts. He worked late, but always found a reason to check on Eugene and the children before midnight. That evening, the rain returned, gentle at first, then heavier, washing the city in silver. Eugene stood by the window with a cup of tea, her heart oddly calm. Maybe, she whispered to herself, maybe peace isn't just for others. A soft knock came at the door. When she opened it, Jun Seo stood there, half smiling. His tie was loose, his hair damp from the rain. "You should rest," Eugene said. "You look exhausted." "I could say the same," he replied. "But I didn't come to talk about sleep." "Then what?" He hesitated for a moment, his eyes searching hers. "Dinner. With me. No business talk, no titles. Just two people who happened to survive the same storm." Her heart stumbled. "You don't owe me that kind of kindness, Jun Seo." "Maybe I don't," he said softly. "But maybe I want to." Eugene looked down, her cheeks warming despite herself. "If I say yes, your mother will think the worst." He smiled faintly. "My mother already does." She laughed quietly, the sound pulling something inside him taut and alive. For a moment, it felt easy, like the world outside the mansion didn't exist. But peace has a way of shattering when it's finally found. The doorbell rang, sharp, loud, impatient. Jun Seo frowned. At this hour, the maid hurried to open the door. A man stood in the rain, his jacket damp, his expression both desperate and smug. Eugene froze. The teacup slipped from her hand and shattered against the marble. "Eugene," the man said, stepping forward. "Long time, isn't it?" Her voice caught. "Taehyun." Jun Seo's brows furrowed. "You know him?" Taehyun smirked. "Know me? She should. She's the reason I almost lost everything." His gaze flicked to the baby's cradle in the corner. "So, this is where you've been hiding?" "Leave," Eugene said sharply, her voice trembling. "You don't belong here." "Neither do you," he snapped back. "You think wearing a fancy dress makes you one of them? This rich man doesn't know who you really are, Eugene." Jun Seo stepped closer, his tone low, dangerous. "Be careful what you say." Taehyun laughed bitterly. "Does he even know you're living here under false papers? Or that you used to beg on the street near Hangang Bridge? Should I tell him how you fooled people into giving you money, saying you were carrying his child?" Eugene's face drained of color. "Stop it." Jun Seo's jaw tightened. His gaze moved between them. "Is any of that true?" Her throat closed. "It's not what you think." "Then explain," he said, the edge in his voice cutting. "I trusted the wrong person once," she whispered. "And it cost me everything." "Don't play the victim," Taehyun sneered. "You've always been good at that." "Get out," Jun Seo said, voice steel now. But the damage had been done. Taehyun smirked, stepping back. "Be careful, Mr. Han. Not every storm ends clean." Then he disappeared into the rain. Eugene stood frozen, tears burning behind her eyes. "Jun Seo, please." He raised a hand, his expression unreadable. I need to think. Her chest caved in. You don't believe me? I want to, he said quietly. But right now, I don't know what to believe. He turned and walked away, leaving her standing among the shattered porcelain and the sound of rain hitting the window like tiny knives. Eugene sank to her knees, trembling. I should have known peace wouldn't last, she thought. It never does. From outside, thunder rolled across the hills. Inside, her heart broke in silence. Upstairs, Bora's sleepy voice drifted through the hall. Eugene. Eugene wiped her tears quickly and forced a small smile. Go back to bed, darling, she whispered. Everything's fine. But nothing was fine. Not anymore. The rain had not stopped since that night. It fell in sheets, beating against the city like punishment. Eugene Jackson stood under the weak light of a bus stop, her baby Minute-Ho wrapped tightly in a worn blanket. Her heart felt heavier than the bag at her feet. It had been 3 days since she left the Han mansion. 3 nights of hiding, of crying quietly so she wouldn't wake her son. Seoul, once alive with color, now looked like a blur of gray and regret. She pressed her forehead against the cold glass of the bus shelter and whispered, You didn't deserve this, my baby. None of it. The bus roared closer, brakes screaming against the wet road. As she stepped forward, thunder cracked above, echoing the noise inside her chest. Back at the mansion, Jun Seo-han hadn't slept. He had watched the rain from his balcony every night, waiting, for forgiveness, for her shadow to appear again at his gate. But it never came. Bora's laughter had vanished. She asked every morning, Appa, when is Eugene coming back? He had no answer. Only silence. Tonight, a single phone call changed everything. His driver burst through the door, breathless. Sir. There's been an accident. A bus skidded off the Han River Bridge. Jun Seo froze. What bus? The late-night line to Incheon, the driver said. Witnesses said a woman with a baby was on board. The room tilted. For a moment, Jun Seo couldn't breathe. Then he was running. The rain slammed against his windshield as he sped through the empty streets, horns screaming behind him. His hands shook on the steering wheel. Every flash of lightning felt like her face, the way she'd looked at him when he said he didn't believe her. At the crash site, chaos ruled. Fire trucks, flashing lights, sirens. The bus had broken through the guardrail, half submerged near the edge of the bridge. Paramedics shouted over the rain. Jun Seo shoved past them, ignoring the hands trying to stop him. Where's the woman? He demanded. Sir, you can't. Where is she? He screamed, his voice raw. Then he saw her. Eugene lay on the wet pavement, soaked, pale, barely conscious. Minute-Ho was cradled against her chest, wrapped in her coat. The baby was crying, alive, trembling, but safe. Jun Seo dropped to his knees beside her, his body shaking. Eugene, oh God. Eugene. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused at first, then found his face. Jun Seo. I'm here, he said, grabbing her hand. I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. I didn't lie to you. I was scared. I know, he whispered, pressing her hand to his heart. I know, and I'll spend the rest of my life making it right. Tears mixed with rain on his face. You saved my daughter, and I almost destroyed you. She smiled weakly. You didn't destroy me, you found me. Paramedics tried to lift her onto a stretcher, but she clung to Jun Seo's sleeve. Don't let them take Minute-Ho away from me. He held the baby close, voice fierce. No one's taking him. He's my son too, do you hear me? Ours. Her eyes widened, a tear slipping free. Ours. Yes, he said, his voice breaking. From the moment I saw you, I think a part of me belonged to you. Her hand trembled in his. You're too late. He bent down and whispered against her forehead, then I'll stay late, for as long as it takes. Her body relaxed. Her breathing steadied. You're still stubborn, she murmured faintly. I learned from you, he said, holding her tightly. By morning, the rain had finally stopped. A week later, sunlight filled the hospital room. Eugene lay in bed, pale but alive. Minute-Ho slept beside her. The door opened, and Jun Seo stepped in quietly with Bora. The little girl ran to her. Eugene. Bora cried, hugging her arm. I prayed every night for you. Eugene smiled weakly, brushing a hand through her hair. Then I guess your prayers worked. Behind them, Jun Seo placed a small box on the table. Inside was a simple silver ring. When you're strong enough, he said softly, kneeling beside her, I want to give you a home, not as your rescuer, but as your man. Her eyes filled with tears. You don't owe me anything. He smiled. Then let's call it love, not debt. Eugene looked at him, really looked at him, the man who had been her stranger, her storm, her shelter. She took his hand, her voice trembling. Then love it is. Outside, the rain started again, soft, cleansing, and warm. But this time, it didn't feel like sorrow. It felt like a new beginning. In the quiet glow of the room, Jun Seo kissed her forehead and whispered, Some things, he said, smiling, the rain can never wash away. And as the city stirred beneath a gentler sky, two souls that once met by accident finally found their forever, beneath the soul rain.